right, good afternoon and welcome everyone. As we get started and people will be joining over the next couple of minutes, I'd like to welcome you to our event all about extracurriculars and why they matter for top US universities. So I'm really excited about this topic. Personally, I love talking to students about what they're doing, what they can do further. We work with some amazing students that are achieving great things and doing really, really in-depth and strong and exciting activities, some world record-breaking activities even. We've been wanting to focus on extracurricular activities for a long time, and kind of just before the end of year holiday, really, which will be coming up quite quickly, when you have some time to think about this and work on your profile, I think is the best time to be talking about it. So I think a really good topic and a really good time for this topic now as well. Alongside academics, which we at Crimson, students, parents, and schools very often focus on, and rightly so, of course, but extracurriculars are, of course, a large portion of the Common App of your US application. They're a really important way of standing out, of showing your personality, showing what's important to you, what you've done with the last 4 years or during the last 4 years of high school and the impact that you've had. And really stands out to an admissions officer when you found something that you really care about, that speaks to who you are, and more importantly, where you want your kind of college experience to take you. So they want to understand what you've been doing, how that relates to your college campus and your contribution that you'll make there, whether or not that ties in with your major. So today we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Where are you joining from, whether you're joining from South Africa or another country within the Africa region. Keep an eye out in that chat as well for some contact details, so you know how to reach out to us in order to start your journey. So keep an eye out for any links or numbers that you can jump into. If you have a specific question, then please put that in the Q&A box, not in the chat, so we can keep track of those questions more easily. And at the very end, I'll be handing out a book prize to someone who is still on the webinar. So you have to be on the webinar in order to get the book. The book being Accepted: Secrets to Gaining Admission to the World's Top Universities by Jamie Beaton, Crimson's founder and CEO, and himself a Harvard, Stanford, Oxford, Tsinghua graduate, and currently doing a JD at Yale, so studying for a law degree at Yale. So certainly if anyone knows the secrets, it is absolutely Jamie Beaton. So a little bit about myself. So I head up Crimson in South Africa and across the Africa region. I have a lot of experience, a long history within the education space. So working in educational publishing, in the kind of edtech space, e-learning space, and of course the admission space. And I've worked with hundreds of students. So really excited to talk to you tonight, and most excited, of course, to introduce our speaker today. So to introduce you to Brad Latilla-Campbell, or Harvard Brad, as we call him in the office, for obvious reasons. So welcome, Brad. Thanks for sharing your experience and expertise with us today. So Brad is the digital marketing manager at Crimson Education, based in the Johannesburg office. Brad did do a BA in social studies at Harvard, and he also helps out when we need some Mandarin. He does have interesting extracurriculars himself. And I know it's not on here, Brad, but I think worth mentioning your extracurriculars that you were involved in at university as well. Brad also has a lot of experience and knowledge around sports admissions. So if you have any questions or interested in a kind of sporting pathway as well, then please reach out on the links that that we'll provide in the chat today, and then we'll show you how you can meet and chat to Brad about that particular pathway. So thank you, Brad. It's good to have you. And just before I let you talk in depth about extracurriculars, I just want to talk tell you all a little bit about Crimson, for those of you who may be joining us for the first time this afternoon. So essentially, we meet students wherever you are on your high school journey. We help students find their best fit university, whether that's an Ivy League, a top public school, or even a small kind of private liberal arts college. We kind of work with students to find the best fit university for your skills, and of course for everything that you're working towards, both at university and beyond as well. So students who work with Crimson do have an admissions rate actually between 4 to 7 times higher than the general admission rate, but I'll touch on a little bit later more about a kind of detail about our results, but a little bit about why Crimson first. So, and a little bit more about what sets us apart, including results. So just on the next slide. So first of all, our staff, most of whom have attended or have worked for the universities that our students are applying to, they are admissions experts and deeply understand the admission process. So most Crimson staff coming from Ivy League universities or Oxbridge, Oxford, and Cambridge. We do have full admission support. So we have former admissions officers on staff who had read through thousands of applications and can really walk you through the nuances of how to build your application so it is cohesive, tells a story, and stands out. Our results, like I say, I'll talk to a little bit later in terms of specific schools. And then we also have lots of opportunities unique to Crimson that we'll cover today that specifically relate to extracurriculars. So for example, if you want to do a research project with a university professor, we have that opportunity through Crimson Research Institute. Or if you're wanting some work experience in high schools, we do partner with top businesses in order to offer internships. And those include PwC, Uber, Denton's Law, most recently Salesforce, MyCycle for any pre-med majors, and even Ferrari, a massive name, of course, for our engineering majors. So I'll touch on that a little bit more later on. So we do have an hour today. We're going to cover quite a lot within that hour. So extracurriculars and why they matter, what admissions officers are looking for and how you can build your profile, how you can even kind of get started early enough where you find extracurricular opportunities, and a couple of kind of real examples of activity lists from students from our region that we'll be showing you as well, so you can get an idea of what some students are doing and busy with. And like I say, we will have a prize that we'll be handing out. So there we go. There's accepted secrets to gaining admission to the world's top universities. So make sure that you stay tuned, stay right till the end, and we'll make sure that we announce a winner. If that, I think Donald in the background is going to be choosing a name for us kind of out of a hat, and if that person's not on, then we'll go to the next name. So stay tuned until the end. And then Brad, I think I'm going to hand over to you. So tell us what we mean by extracurriculars and why they matter at all beyond academics, which we know of course do matter.
Great. Thank you very much, Rebecca. And thank you for that whole introduction. Very kind of you. Yeah, so basically what we're going to be chatting about this evening is the extracurricular part of your application to the US. For those of you who've joined us before for webinars, you'll know that this is quite heavily weighted. And we're going to go into exactly what counts, what some good ideas are around these extracurriculars, and why they're so important within your actual college application. So to start off with, all right, we've got the general application weighting for when you apply to a US university, right? US specifically. And you can see there that it's split into 3 main areas. We've got academics, extracurricular, and leadership, which we call ECLs, and you might see that that acronym pop up a couple times tonight, but that's what that is, extracurricular and leadership. And then finally, what might be termed the self-presentation side of it. So the essays, the overall kind of application itself, and then any interviews that you need to conduct or participate in from alumni or admissions officers at the universities. But you can see that these are fairly equally weighted. And that the extracurriculars and leadership make up a big part of this application, almost as big as academics. Of course, academics gets a little bit of an edge here because we're still applying to university. But when these admissions officers are looking at your application, they are taking your extracurriculars very, very seriously and looking at what kind of extracurriculars you actually have. Okay, so what is an extracurricular? Why does it matter? So extracurriculars refer to, in the US context, anything you do outside of your actual school classroom. All right. So you see, they think extracurriculum, outside of the curriculum. Okay. Anything you do beyond what is required of you at school. And we've got a bunch of examples there that Rebecca has already touched on, of course, if you play a sport at a high level or at any level at all, really, independent research, internships or paid work, student organizations or clubs, and then any awards or competitions that you win across a range of activities. And the reason that these are so important to your application is because it helps to tell the university who you are as a person. For these top-end universities, it's important to be really strong academically, okay? And we often hear that amongst all of the applicants to top-end schools, Ivy League schools like Dartmouth, Yale, other strong schools in the US like Stanford, MIT, all right? We hear that 80 to 90% of the applicants are good enough academically. So the extracurriculars are really how you set yourself apart and prove to the admissions office, okay, that you're going to help build an incredible class, an incredible year at the university, because often these years are quite small. These Ivy League years generally between 1,500 and 2,500 people only, okay? So they want to see that you're going to add value to your classmates, that you're going to be able to provide them with different perspectives and add unique experiences based on what you've done in high school, okay? And something to note here is because of the emphasis on these extracurricular activities across a range of universities for a long period of time, which has kind of permeated pop culture. So we see in TV shows and movies, people worrying about kind of what they are doing to further their university applications to these top schools. A great example of this is if any of you have watched Gilmore Girls, you'll remember when Rory is applying to college and she's trying to figure out what she needs to be doing, and people are telling her she needs to be doing more extracurriculars, right? She's trying to figure out the best ones to do, okay? And now we know that. So the school-offered ones are often very much taken up by everyone. So as a result of that, research opportunities, so unique opportunities and unique extracurriculars are becoming more and more important, okay? It's the opportunity to work at a university level, to conduct research, and also to have experience working, whether that's paid work or internships, okay? Have some experience working. So what do you want your extracurriculars to show about you, right? I said they tell this story about you. They tell a story about your passions and what your experiences, but what do you want the story to be? So overall, if you're looking at your application, okay, it must tell a very clear, concise, and compelling story. Okay, you want the admissions officer reading your application to know about you in the short amount of time that they have to read your application. Of course, they're dealing with thousands of applications, all right? And they have a very short amount of time to read yours. And you want your extracurriculars to tell the story about you. Okay, and it must be a clear and compelling story as well. So you use your extracurriculars to illustrate elements of your application, right? And your passions and your personality and things that you have done that have caused you to grow as a person. All right. Your academics, your marks, very important, but they can never tell a full story about a person. And in the US, the holistic application, the entire application is what they look at, and that is very, very important. Okay, so that is what the story that you want your extracurriculars to tell. You want it to show that you are more than just what is on your report, what's on your transcript. You want it to show what you are as a person and who you are as a person. Okay. So if we've said that now, that you wanted to tell that story, how can you use your extracurriculars, your ECL profile, your extracurriculars and your leadership? How can you use that to stand out from the crowd, the pool of people that you're applying with to the university of your choice, of your dreams? Okay. Now here is a good example. Here's an explanation, all right, from Harvard University of how the admissions officers use that ECL list, and we'll go into the list in a second. Okay, so they're looking for contributions students make to the well-being of their secondary schools, their high schools, their communities, and their families are of great interest to us. So indicate for us the time you spend and the nature of the contribution to extracurricular activities, the local community, work experiences, and help provided to your family. Activities you undertake need not be exotic, but rather must show a commitment to excellence, regardless of the activity. Such a commitment can apply to any activity in your life and may reflect underlying character and personal qualities. So that is what they're looking for when they're looking at your extracurricular list, okay, and your leadership positions list. All right, they want to see that you have made a commitment to the activity itself, and also that you are committed to doing it well. All right, not just that you're committed to the activity. Okay, now another thing to note, and we'll get into this in a second, there is a 150 character count limit in your activity descriptions. So you must be able to boil down what you have done in each of these activities, what kind of impact you've made, all right, and the time that you've spent on it in this 150 characters. So it must be a concise, a short story about it, but you must be able to show your actual contribution in that short space. Okay. Some qualities that can help develop into great extracurriculars that you want to show through your extracurricular, and so by kind of the converse will help you develop really strong extracurriculars for that list, will help develop your extracurricular profile. All right, leadership, intellectual curiosity, creativity, initiative, commitment, and strong personal qualities. And you can see a couple of them there, which we'll go into in a second. Now, if you look at these words, you'll note that a lot of them have some overlap, right? When you're showing the specific things, you might show 2 or 3 of them at the same time. For instance, creativity and initiative. Okay, if you are going to solve a problem in your community or in your family or at your school, you want to solve it in a creative way. You don't want to do the same thing that's been done over and over again. Okay, you want to solve it in a way that shows that you've thought about it, that you've applied your mind and used your unique perspective to solve it. And then you've taken the initiative to actually solve that problem. Okay, you've taken the leadership to solve that problem as well. All right. They want to see your intellectual curiosity so that you are interested in academics and you do love learning. They want to see your love of learning, your thirst for knowledge. Okay. And like we said, commitment, not only to the activity, but also to excellence. And a phrase that we like to use at Crimson when we're talking about extracurriculars is commitment and impact when we talk about extracurriculars. Okay. So you must be committed. Length of time doing the activity is important. Okay, and impact, you must have achieved some kind of impact in this activity for it to be meaningful and a strong part of your list. And we'll go into what kind of impact you can look at, you can make in a second. But some strong personal qualities there. You want to be showing self-awareness, a willingness to grow, to challenge yourself. Okay, social awareness in terms of your local community, and that's very kind of prevalent in Africa in general. There's a lot of sort of discrepancies socially, socioeconomically that we can help to solve as people who are applying to these top universities with creative solutions. Okay, but they want to see that you are aware of these issues around you. All right, they want to see that you're looking to solve the problems around you, and you aren't stumped and just give up when you are faced with some kind of hardship. All right, service oriented, so you're looking to do community service in an impactful, a meaningful, a long-lasting and ongoing way. They want to see that you are passionate. Okay, so you're committed, but also that you love it. You do it because you love it. And that love impacts how you interact with that activity. Okay, that you're compassionate, okay, and kind to other people and the people in your family and your community and your school, and that you welcome challenges. Like I said, you don't just kind of settle and remain comfortable, but constantly trying to break out of that comfort zone to grow yourself as a person, okay, and add strings to your bow and develop your character. So, things to remember. 4 years of your academic achievements will be read in minutes. We're told by our friends who are former admissions officers who join us sometimes for these webinars that the average time reading a full application, which will include all of your academics, all of your extracurriculars, and your essays, and your teacher recommendations, is between 7 and 8 minutes per application, right? They're going to read through all of that and need to get a sense of who you are, and you need to impress them in 7 to 8 minutes, okay? So you need to be concise and clear and compelling, okay? And through that, your extracurricular and leadership activities and experiences can convey who you are just as a quick read through, okay? They need to read through it quickly, and you need to show through those experiences, activities, who you are and what you have done, all right? That's going to make you a good fit at these universities. And remember, we said it needs to be clear, compelling, and concise, right? You need to build a strong personal brand, okay? So this personal brand that you are building, okay, it needs to be about what your overall kind of title, let's say if we had to title or header your application, who you would be in one sentence, and you want your extracurriculars to back that up, to affirm that message, all right? To say to the admissions officer, that is who I am. All right, it's all very well and good for you to say, I'm the person who cares about cleaning up litter on the coast off Cape Town. All right, but if you've done nothing to back that up, it's empty. It's an empty statement. Okay, so you want your extracurricular to show that you're passionate about recycling and the environment and the sea in particular. Okay, as an example. So, how do we figure out then what extracurriculars are a good fit for you? Okay, like I said, how do you show, okay, that these are building your personal brand? How do you figure out what those extracurriculars are? And the first way to do that is to explore your passions. What do you love? What are you passionate about? This could be anything. Is it music? Is it a specific part of music? What type of music? Do you love playing the piano? Do you love strange instruments? Do you love to sing? Do you love to write music? Okay, is it dance? There's a whole lot of different areas that you can look at. It could be sport, okay? It could be something academic related as well, right? It could be science or maths that you're really, really into, or English, okay? So you're exploring these passions, and you have to figure out how can you showcase that you are passionate about this, okay? What do you do to feed that fire that you have in you for this topic, right? You need to think about that and work that out. And then you use your strengths, you apply them to your passions. Okay, so what are you good at and what do you love? And where and how can they overlap? Where's the middle of that Venn diagram? And that is a great extracurricular for you if you can find that middle part, okay? Something that you love, where you are doing something that you are good at as well, using your strengths, the strongest tools in your toolbox, as it were. And once you have figured that out and you've found this activity or set of activities, you need to elevate your impact and achievement, right? So if it's not something that is awarded, so let's say it's sport, like obviously you love, let's say you love football. Football is your passion. And let's say you're not really that good at it, like me. Right? I'm a big Liverpool fan, never really strong at football, played C and D team my whole life, but I love Liverpool, watch them every game, even when they break my heart. Okay, how can I apply my own strengths to Liverpool? Is it writing a blog? Is it writing match reviews for the school paper, for the school magazine, for a local paper? Is it helping to kind of educate people or writing books? You know, if I say my strength is writing, is it writing books about the history of Liverpool to make it more accessible to people? Okay, is it helping people write letters to Liverpool? You know, they do a lot of that charity work for people, their fans all over the world. Is it helping people write those letters? Okay. And if it's not awarded like that, how do you make an impact? Okay, you need to innovate and create your own projects. And maybe it's building a huge society, a bigger society, measuring that impact. So you need to be able to measure the impact. How many people you have helped, or how much money you have raised. Okay, and then mentor future leaders to ensure this extracurricular is ongoing. And it's not just you. And you have made an impact, a broader impact on your community, on your local community. If it is awarded, then you can measure by achievement. All right. If you love science, you want to be an engineer, okay, or you want to be a scientist, you can measure your achievement by winning Olympiads, by doing really well at school, by doing well nationally in your high school level, in your high school diploma. Okay. If you're really strong at sport, if you love football and you are really good at football, you can be selected for the regional team or the provincial team or the national team, and you can go and play, and you can measure that by achievement. But it's not the only way to measure that impact. So if we're saying we're looking for impact and achievement, right? An achievement, you can lead from the front, right? By being the top or the best at something. But if you can't measure it by achievement, you need to find another way to show your impact, right? To make an impact. And oftentimes, the way to do this is through leadership in this specific activity or in a range of activities. So what does leadership look like? Okay, we've got a couple of types here that I'm going to talk through. The first is institutional. This is what we all think of when we say leadership at school level, right? These are the positions that exist. People get elected to them or chosen for them by the teachers or by their peers. Okay, head boy, head girl, prefect, choir leader, captain of the soccer team, captain of the basketball team. All right, these positions would exist, and there would be someone in them regardless of how strong or weak your school year is and whether someone wants to do it or not, really. Okay, but not everyone can have an elected position. By nature, there must be one person leading many people. Okay, so if you aren't that kind of person who is leading from the front and vocal and is able to do that kind of thing, how else can you show leadership? It's not the only way to show leadership. You can do something that is innovative. You can take the initiative. And some of the greatest examples are listed there, right? You can found a startup. You can make your own business, all right? You can make an organization and raise money for people in the area, underprivileged people in your area, okay? You can lead a campaign for a club that you're part of that maybe you don't have a leadership position in. Maybe you're taking the initiative to help do something. If you are part of the student parliament, for instance, what are you doing to better student parliament? Are you making a drive to get people engaged? Are you doing a kind of a survey to figure out what people want from the student body parliament? Are you maybe thinking about the ways that student parliament can raise money in the long term for the underprivileged? Okay, starting an app, starting a competition that doesn't exist already. And then there's a further way of doing that, of showing leadership, and it is independent leadership. So it's stuff you do on your own, taking the initiative and completing something unique and remarkable on your own. Are you fundraising by running a marathon? All right. Have you written a novel? Have you drawn a cartoon? Have you created your own kind of animated or filmed TV show? Are you doing research at a very high level, maybe with a college or university professor? If you completed a really impressive internship? And all of these things you can go out and find. You can go and contact the people who run them, and you can find these opportunities. And Rebecca will tell us a little bit later about how to source those opportunities specifically. Now that we've talked about leadership, what are some ways that you can show impact? Okay, and here are 3 levels of impact, which kind of varying impressiveness to admissions officers. The first level is school, right? So something in your school, a school club, right? So if you are starting a club at school, okay, you want to show some kind of impact on other people. The club may grow to a certain number of people, but it wants to show outsized impact on the people that it affects, right? So if you've got 30 tutors at the club, at the school, and you're tutoring 100 others. Okay. Are you doing a fundraising event at school to help people nearby at a school that your school has a partnership with? Or did you propose that your school converts to solar energy? Are you interested in the environment and in eco projects? And they actually did convert to solar energy through a plan that you helped them make, right? That's a school impact. Your local impact would be something in your community outside of school necessarily, right? I love this idea of starting a traveling library or bookstore that reaches areas without library access. Are there people that don't have the opportunity to take out these books? And lots of schools around South Africa, around Africa, will have these outreach projects where they go into schools relatively nearby to them that don't have great access to resources. And there's a lot of opportunity there where you can build on those already existing projects instead of just taking part. Okay. And finally, a national or an international impact. Okay. That's something maybe online. Okay. Like a YouTube channel or a podcast or perhaps a social media channel, right? That reaches many, many thousands of people from all over the world. Maybe it's representing your country at some kind of activity, debate, let's say Model UN, sport, maybe a sport if you're going to play, under age group South Africa or Nigeria or Kenya, all right? Or it's winning a competition that includes people from all over the world for music, art, whatever it is, okay, or even academics. And those are ways that you can show impact, right? You're making an impact, even if it's through achievement, being really good at it, that's still an impact. Okay, so now that we've covered how you can show those and what leadership and impact looks like in these activities, what are universities actually looking for? And they're looking for a well-developed profile. Now, we've spoken about extracurriculars and how important they are and how important it is to make an impact. The reality of the situation is, okay, you have 10 slots, you have 10 extracurricular slots on your US Common App application. Right. How do you fill them? It's not really enough if you're applying to a top school to do 3 or 4. You need to fill out all 10, and all 10 need to be meaningful activities or leadership experiences. So here is a short kind of strategy, a very rough strategy on how you can plan out your extracurriculars here. Okay. So 2 activities of the 10 related to volunteering, service oriented. Okay. 3 to 5 in which you are a leader. And remember, we looked at the different ways to be a leader, okay? 1 to 3 academic activities, so things that are related to what you are studying or learning, okay? Maybe it's Olympiads, maybe it's helping tutor or whatever it is. 1 to 2 non-school affiliated activities, so something that your school doesn't offer, okay, that you've found outside of school, okay? So there it says reputable summer camps, but this could also be work experience, research experience like that, okay? And then the recommendation is at least 1 quirky activity reflecting more unusual skills or hobbies. A great one of this is something like skateboarding or archery, or maybe you collect coins at a very high level. You're a numismatist, okay? What do you do that makes you kind of unique and stand out of a crowd of other necessarily high achievers? Something quirky that's not necessarily related to your own kind of impressiveness, okay, something that you do because you love it a lot. All right, so that's the profile that universities are looking for. You think about those as a list of 10 and how you can put those together to tell the story about yourself that you want to tell. So now that we've got kind of this idea of our activities, how do we maximize the impact in our extracurriculars? Okay, like I said, you've got these 10 slots to fill, 10 activities that you want to tell the admissions office about. Okay. Now you've got a space to tell each one, a space to describe each one, but it's also important where they are each ranked. You want the most important ones first, how they're organized. All right. You want the most important ones first. Okay. The stuff that is most impressive or most valuable and relevant to your brand, to your story. Okay. So you've got that, all right? But they also have space for duration and time commitment. Okay, so how long you were involved in it for and how much time it took out of your day, your week, okay? The position title or any leadership that you held in it, okay? And finally, an intention to participate in college or not. Some of us might have played sport at school, all right? Even to a high level, they have no intention of continuing in college. Some of us might have done things like being in the choir or performed on the stage, right? They have no intention of continuing into college, right? And that was more for me, right? For those of us on the chat, on the webinar, definitely from South Africa, we end up a lot of the time having compulsory sports. So you end up playing quite a lot of sport kind of naturally. I love sport. I'm just not very good at it. So of course I put down all the sport that I played in the C and D teams and said I would not be continuing that into college because I don't think that would be a good use of my time. But something that I really did love doing, and I was relatively, at least amongst people at my school, good at singing in the choir and performing on stage. I had every intention of continuing into college. And I did end up doing that. I ended up being in an a cappella group at college and performing quite a lot on stage through my 8 semesters in the States. So they want to see that because they want to know what you'll be adding. The admissions officers want to know what you'll be adding to the overall student body, right? What kind of experience you're going to bring and what kind of experience you're going to create for someone else. Okay. So if we're putting down our 10 extracurriculars, how do we evaluate them? How do we figure out which is the best, which is number one, the one that's most impactful for our story, and which isn't? So, excuse me, you want to look at first if you have any special talents. So what are you uniquely excellent at? Uniquely out of your entire kind of activities, but also, you know, uniquely within the activity. Are you really good at music, much better than everyone else? Okay, and what are you out of all your activities best at? Okay, music, sports, academics, whatever it is. Okay, it might be public speaking, might be debate, right? Could be a whole range of things. Then you want to look at depth and breadth. Okay, how dedicated are you to these specific activities? So the length of involvement, how long have you been doing it? Did you do it the whole way through high school? That catches the admissions officer's attention because a lot of people are doing these activities just to put on their college applications. They've done them for a year or two. If you've done it for a long time, it's a fantastic way to catch the attention and stand out from the crowd. Okay. But the admissions officers also like to see you pursuing a range of interests, not just one. They want to see that you've done multiple activities. Okay. And finally, what kind of leadership positions or impact did you have on this activity? All right. Did you get results? Were you able to fundraise a lot of money? Okay. Relative to other years, relative to other projects. Okay. Did you end up changing a large group of people? Did you run a successful event? Okay. And who benefited? What impact was there? Who benefited? And is it ongoing and long-lasting? Did you mentor a new generation or a new group to continue your work after you left? Okay, what's the legacy there? And that is also very important to kind of not just box tick in the terms of the activities that you're doing. And the way that we achieve kind of evaluating strongly on the Common App is that we quantify. All right, we're very used to qualifying things. Wow, I did such a nice thing and we did all this. But on the Common App, it's important to quantify numbers. What did you do? What was the impact? And here is an example, right? You're president of the pre-med club, which is a very kind of American idea, right? Being pre-med. But there are 2 examples of the same activity, one that is not quantified and not doing a good job of evaluating your impact and your commitment, right? And one that is doing a good job of it. So let's read the first one. Elected president of club. In weekly meetings, we introduce medical topics to high school students with guest speakers, volunteer activities, and fundraisers. Right, sounds good, right? But if you're looking at this in comparison to other people who are very impressive, it doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't tell us, right, how many high school students this club had. Right? Maybe you're the only person. Okay, how many guest speakers and of what caliber they were, right? What kind of volunteer activities and how successful the fundraisers were. But in the second example, there with the thumbs up, the right one, recruited 50+ members for the club yourself, invited 12 medical guest speakers, organized 30% more volunteer activities than there were before, and there's some examples of them, fundraisers, supply drives, etc., and raised over $2,000. So you can see how quantified that second explanation is. All right, and that is the way to address all of your extracurriculars written in the Common App. You'll see that the title is President, Pre-Med Club. Why did this person, the first person, waste time writing elected president of club? We knew that. It says it there. You can't waste the space, these 150 characters. You've got to be concise. Okay. So when you're talking about your academic awards, you've got 5 slots to rank them. All right. All of these should be related to academics. Okay. So Olympiads, honor roll, this we used to call at my school kind of top 10. Science fairs, competitions, both national, international, regional. Okay. And this helps to demonstrate that intellectual curiosity, that spark of learning, that love of knowledge. Okay. And that's what these universities love to see. All right. This is just the title, 100 characters for name and description. All right. And the admissions officers love it when you are concise, when they can just read it quickly and understand what it is. Okay. Now you also want to put in there your level of recognition, whether that was school, provincial, national, or international. What kind of recognition and therefore impact you had in this activity. Okay. And the higher the level, the more impressive it looks to admissions officers. So if you have the option of doing something at a national level, you should do it, right? If you're looking to impress these admissions officers. And it is important in these types of academic awards and looking for stuff that you start early, because awards over time can show that you've been dedicated to that academic pursuit for a longer period of time. You are more passionate about it. And that's kind of how it will reflect to admissions officers in the US. Okay. Now we just said they're starting early. Why does it matter? Why does starting early matter? Why do I need to start early? Why can't I just start in matric? Okay. Well, why you should act as soon as possible. Students in the States and lots of other international students who are at international schools or whose schools are kind of prepared and wanting to send all of their students to the US, right? They've been preparing this list for years. Okay, they're not just starting kind of in a year, right, at the end of their school career. You want, therefore, most of your activities to show multi-year involvement, and you want to have multiple leadership roles by the time you apply. If you are on a school year cycle from January to December, all right, like we are in South Africa, that means towards the end of your final year. But if you're not, if you start in August and end in May, right, that's the middle of your final year. That's going to be when you're applying in the December of that last year of school. So you need to have multiple leadership roles by that time. Okay, you can't only get those together towards the end of your last year. You need to have them established and have done something to show the impact, okay, to show your commitment. And it takes time to develop these extracurricular involvements at a very high level. Right? If you guys think the easiest one to think about here is sport, okay, if you start playing golf when you're in grade 11, the chances of you playing at a national level or at a nationally recognized tournament a year later is slim. Okay, it's not really going to happen. But if you'd started golf much earlier, your chances are much higher because you played much longer, you are much better, you're able to kind of give a much better account of yourself as you move forward. Okay, so it takes time to develop the extracurriculars to that level. Okay, then if you start doing these extracurriculars early, you can kind of get to know what you're interested and passionate about, and you can reflect that in your application when you tell them what you intend to study. Okay, so if you do intend to study something like engineering, you can develop these extracurriculars or your extracurriculars around that, around engineering, okay? And that can show that you are actually interested in that major and will be committed to it and will actually continue with that degree, okay? Now, something we think about here for Crimson students specifically, all right? Early preparation, so more than a couple months in advance, so over a year in advance, it can increase success rate by 3 to 4 times based on the likelihood of you getting into the school, your acceptance rate at the school. Okay. And most Crimson students have more than 2 years of support. Okay, 2 or more years of support. So there's a lot of people who are getting support early, all right? And it's helping to build this extracurricular profile, and it's drastically increasing their chances of admission to their top universities. So what can we do now? Where we are in the timeline? Okay, so if you're in grade 9, right, this is what you're looking for in your extracurriculars. You're casting your net wide. You're doing as many activities as possible to find what you are interested in, what you love, what really rows your boat, what gets you going. Okay, and then grade 10, you cut the ones you're not so interested in, and you double down on the ones that you really enjoy and explore them a bit deeper. And you look for opportunities to be different, innovate, okay, to make the activity better. By grade 11, you land on a couple that you really, really love. And together, these might make the foundation of your capstone project. Now, capstone projects are a huge project, very impressive project that you'll do kind of towards the end of your schooling, but it takes time to develop, right? This might be putting together an app or founding that startup or making that organization, right? And the things that you love and are passionate about and have had a long-term interest in, probably going to form that foundation. And then finally, in grade 12, in your last year, you plan to complete your capstone project before applications are due so that you can show the impact. You can demonstrate your impact. So what can you do, right? How can we think about this within the extracurriculars, in the activities that you can do, right? So in grade 9, development and exploration. Okay, so you're looking at everything. You want to try and find as many clubs as you can and activities as you can, even outside of school, even if they sound a bit strange at the time. Okay, and you start to research the majors that you might be interested in at college. Who knows? Your activities might show something that you're not expecting, but if you think you have some kind of idea, you like to write, you know, maybe I'm interested in journalism, maybe I'm interested in law. Okay, start researching that. Look at what some popular extracurriculars are and get involved in them. By grade 10, you kickstart your projects. Okay, so if you're looking to actually kick off fundraising drives or other types of things like that, that's when you start to try and kick those off. Okay, develop networking. So start talking to people maybe at your school who've been overseas, okay, who've been through the process before, okay, and maybe some alumni that you can find as well within the extracurriculars to help make a bigger impact. All right, and you look into research projects, competitions, and internships around the world and in your area. In grade 11, you'll run for leadership positions to show your commitment and growth. You'll find mentors, right? We're talking about networking, who can provide guidance and serve as role models. Who can help you through and help you to come up with and execute great ideas around your extracurriculars. And you can line up further activities during your holidays that are not necessarily school related. And by matric, then you should have a good list of extracurriculars that you want to now start deciding on how you're going to present for your application. So how can you kickstart your extracurricular journey? First, start at school. Look at what your school offers. Get involved in those clubs. If there's something you want to do, like writing for the newspaper that your school doesn't offer, start the newspaper. Go to an English teacher and say, ma'am, sir, I want to start a newspaper. I want to start a school newspaper. I want to recruit journalists who want to publish a paper every month. Okay. Once you've done that, look in your local community. There might be leaders in your local community who can provide ways to connect and contribute. If it's your ward councillor, they can offer you some ways to kind of get involved and help out in the local community. Then you start looking regional, national, international. Okay, looking at competitions maybe or conventions that can raise your profile and elevate you above other applicants. And then finally, you think global and online. So how can you make this international? How can you make this an international impact event or extracurricular? Okay, and these are generally quite unique activities on your profile. And if you're thinking about starting a new initiative, make sure it shows curiosity. Okay. Right, maybe you can conduct your own research remotely with guidance from a university professor. Maybe you can write. Okay, if you're thinking of starting a new initiative, you can start your own blog. You can enter an essay competition. You can send in, I know in South Africa, you can send in contributions to the Daily Maverick. They'll often publish those straight off the bat, okay, online newspaper. You can learn about potential careers and look into having internships and job shadowing to show that you've tried to learn about them and gained information on them. And finally, you can do some personal projects. Start your own app, launch a nonprofit or a startup. Okay, we're going to look at some examples here of things that are personal projects as well. Okay, and here are 2 lists I'll go through very quickly of actual Crimson students and their actual successful student activities lists. We've got 5 from each of them. Right, so on the left, we've got a student. He was accepted into Yale, Princeton, Stanford, UPenn, and USC, regular decision. All right. And on the right, we've got a student who was accepted into Harvard, early decision. Okay. So these are their top 5 activities, which we're going to have a quick look at now. Right. So on the left, okay. As we look through these activities, try to think what you might say is the student's through line and how clear that is based on their activities. Okay. So the first activity there, okay, journalism publication, co-founder and editor. managed South African youth arts publication, strategized daily online content, received national media coverage, 7,500 active visitors in 80 countries. Can you see the quantification there, right? You can see on the left, grade 11 and 12 year, 4 hours per week, 40 weeks per year, plans to continue it at college level. All right. Next, journalism publication. Again, year 12, columnist. Write bi-weekly comedy pieces for global comedy publication, global, right? Have submitted 8+ scripts and articles, interviewed writers, including Emmy winner Brent Forrester. Okay, 3 hours a week, 20 weeks per year, plans to continue. Again, journalism publication, freelance creative, right? Written and photo work published. And we see the number of readers, okay, and journals that's gone on and what exactly that the student did. And then theater and drama, playwright, director, actor, and look at the numbers here. Wrote for 5+ and directed 3+ school plays. Play selected for 3 national and 3 international competitions. Performed in a total of 9 plays during seasons. Okay, plans to continue. Finally, founder and editor of another website there. Managed film analysis website for aspiring filmmakers, and you can see that at the end of 2,000+ global readers. Right, so if we think about the through line there, it's definitely to do with journalism, with writing, and with the arts. Okay, very clear from those 5 activities. And now if we move to the right, we'll see founder, editor of a youth platform for social commentary and creative expression. Okay, 8,800 site views, published 70 opinion pieces, collaborated with a newspaper, established newspaper on a youth essay competition, high-profile webinar and podcast. Okay. Next, student government or politics, head of school, student body president, head boy. All right. Head of student leadership team. There were 14 of them. Student voice on council and transformation and diversity committee, led inclusivity initiatives. Okay. Career oriented, was an intern at the Southern Center for Inequality Studies, which is a university center. All right. Then community service volunteer, head of committee, matric dance committee. But if you look at these numbers in this description, it's about fundraising and helping the underprivileged much more than organizing the actual dance. And then the 5th there is an athletics activity, which are generally recognized, okay, as a big time suck. So it's always good to include these, especially if you've played it at a high level. And this is basketball, was vice captain, leadership position, right? Okay, 15 hours per week, but 44 weeks of the year. 2 times MVP winner. Finalist in 7 tournaments, selected for Johannesburg district team and Gauteng state team. Competed at national and regional level, awarded colors. All right, so we can see that from the top 4, very much service oriented, okay, very much looking to help the underprivileged, okay, using positions of leadership. But then the students added in the athletics at the bottom to show that there's a kind of breadth of interest in different activities. So these are some really good examples of activities lists of successful Crimson students in the past. So I think I'm going to hand back to Rebecca now to talk about how you can find these impactful and standout opportunities.
Sure. Thanks, Brad. Just want to make a comment on the very ambitious audience that we have today. Some amazing schools there, everyone wanting to go to kind of MIT, Harvard, Yale, right, UCLA, some nice schools there. All right, so where can you find some extracurriculars with us, where you may want to add some work experience, some research activities to your profile, some activities that may be aligned to your chosen major. And earlier I mentioned kind of the Ferrari internship for our engineering majors, or maybe even just our Ferrari fans. All right, so at Crimson, we mentioned this a little bit earlier. We partner with many top companies, so students have an opportunity to get hands-on experience in the workplace, albeit in a safe and virtual and therefore easy to travel to space as well. So you can join these whether you're a Crimson student or not. We have many, and you'll see some amazing names there. We've mentioned Uber, PwC, Ferrari, of course, The Economist for our kind of pre-med majors or our medicine majors. If you're applying to medicine for another country, we have your cycle, which is a kind of a medicine-based internship as well. So regardless of your major, there's probably something there for everyone. We also have competition. So, you'll have heard Brad, within those activities list, particularly kind of mentioning regional, mentioning international, global competitions, really great, right? It helps admissions officers see not just that you're kind of standing out on a local stage, but also a global stage as well. So this year we had our first annual Uber Global Hackathon. We're in the thick, right in the midst of our PwC Global Case competition with around 2,000 students participating. That's also an annual competition. And then later this year, we'll be announcing the next round of what is also an annual competition, our Harvard Crimson Global Essay Competition. So, again, going back to those students' activities lists, that first student there, the strong kind of journalism writing angle, for any of our kind of strong writers, storytellers, film majors, English majors, journalism majors, maybe that's one for you. And again, you don't have to be a Crimson student to participate in those. So it's too late for PwC for any of our kind of interested business majors or entrepreneurship majors, but certainly for Harvard Crimson Global Essay Comp, that will open up towards the end of the year in November and December. And then we have another Crimson initiative that sees you paired with a PhD or professor mentor to develop a research project or a paper. Many of our students who participate in Crimson Research Institute go on to be published. And of course, there's nothing like saying you're a published author at 16, 17. We do have some intensive group research classes that take place over or across the holidays. So beautifully named CRISP, which is Crimson Research Institute Summer Program, or Crimson Research Institute Snow Program, depending, of course, on the time of year. So these are, as I said, intensive kind of 6-week classes, span the kind of across the holidays, and you can learn all the skills of research, develop your own research paper with a professor in your particular field of interest who will be leading that particular class, and you'll have a class of global peers with you as well. So you could join a computer science class, a psychology class, a genetics class, or more, and really kind of build out that profile. Lots of questions from students tonight on how you can kind of build out, how you can find those activities. So there's some examples of activities that you can do with us, many of which are coming up over the end of year holiday as well, and that span, at different times of the year after that as well. So look out for those, or even better, reach out to us and we can chat to you about them individually. All right, so then a little bit more, I'm just going to expand for the last couple of minutes on the Crimson support that we offer. So we spoke specifically about extracurriculars today, which you'll see on the next slide, is one of our kind of mentoring opportunities, along with, as I said, research, internship, and other activities in your extracurricular profile. But we also, of course, help with general admission university strategies, such as identifying target schools for international students faced with that list of, what is it, Brad? About 4,000 institutions in the US. That's a tough one, right? So working with students to build a ranking list of universities to apply to, and then, of course, working on how you can develop and build out your personal brand. And then we help students discover what their passions are, what their standout characteristics are, and then, of course, help them develop that kind of theme. Essay writing, certainly, I always say this is the most kind of stressful part of the application for South African students, particularly because they generally written during what is exam time here, which is a little bit different for students outside of South Africa. But also because that's the point that you are conveying who you are, all about who you are. You want to stand out. You don't want to sound robotic or inauthentic. So we work really hard with students on revising their essays to show their personality and have a unique viewpoint, and not just really faced with that blank piece of paper and writing about the first thing that you've thought of. So we read through, of course, and feedback on all essays, core essays and supplemental essays. And then, of course, if you need help with tutoring, whether that's a standardized test like the SAT or even, general kind of subject areas as well, you can reach out to us. And then we do that all through the Crimson app. So we manage a student's program through their kind of personalized Crimson app account. So we have this comprehensive online platform that essentially delivers all of that kind of tutoring or mentoring. We are able to track a student's program. Student strategist and team is able to set and monitor goals. You can book in sessions. You would do any diagnostic testing and view your reports to see what you got for your SAT and where you may need to focus on in order to improve that mark as well. And you're even able to give feedback on your sessions that you would have had with your tutors and mentors throughout your program. And then because we focus specifically on extracurriculars, really what we call Pathfinder, which is really just this master list of everything you could possibly do. So I know questions on what kind of activity can I do? What's in this particular algorithm is all of the possible activities that you could do in the years before you apply. And then each of those activities is ranked has kind of a point value based on how valuable a university admissions officer would find that particular activity, right? So the more points you get, the better your kind of eventual college application will be. So every student's Pathfinder looks different, of course. Yours would be customized to your kind of your interests, your needs, your objectives as well. And it will help you and your team find the right goals for you and help you stay on track. So that's probably, I would say, my favorite part of the Crimson app currently. So we could use an example, a student aiming for top 10 universities, maybe 34%. So you can see they're on the way to the goal. His academics may be tracking well, as you can see there. We've made a plan for the remaining grade levels for his studies, and then the bar would then fill out more fully if this particular student maintains his current academic performance. So we're able to kind of track along academic standardized testing. And what you can see here, his extracurricular section needs improvement, and for which he's then been assigned new tasks in collaboration with his strategist and his team. Our results, just having a look at those, our results really speak to what we do at Crimson. So we help students achieve their goal of attending their dream school. So you'll see a lot of great results here in kind of the Ivy League and Oxbridge or Oxford and Cambridge universities, but it's not just those schools, of course. So whether it is the Ivy League or a university in Europe, the UK, Canada, or medicine somewhere, whether any of those or your goal, then we'll work with you to do just that, right? To find the university that will help you achieve your kind of university and, of course, your career goals too. And then if you've enjoyed tonight, we hope to see you at the actually, before I get there, yes, lots of people asking how you can reach out. So what are the next steps? So we'll see you for a complimentary consultation. If you haven't got one of the links or contact numbers that have been supplied, then you can use the QR code that's here. We'll then see you for a complimentary consultation. We want to learn as much about you as possible and help you develop your brand and your story. We'll then develop a personalized program of services to help you where you are, whether that's in grade 8, going into grade 8, going into app year for those of you in grade 11, or those of you who are currently in app year. So we'll help you develop a strategy to get your application to be the best that it can possibly be. And as I was saying, if you've enjoyed this afternoon, then we hope to see you again soon. Really nice event coming up next. Or rather later in probably our kind of big December event that I just want to draw your attention to. Many of you may have heard Ben Schwartz speak previously. Ben is a former Ivy League admission officer and knows everything there is to know about what happens inside that admissions office. For the rest of November, if you've got any questions that haven't been answered here tonight, and you want to kind of jump on an event with Kyle Brown, who's our academic advisor, then I encourage you to go to one of those. For any parents, there is a lunchtime Q&A, and for any students or, of course, parents later in that in the day, then there's another event in the afternoon too, which you can join. For those of you who are in Johannesburg this weekend, we are having an SAT masterclass, which Brad will be doing in person at our office, going through a maths and English question in the SAT, even doing a short diagnostic test. So if you're writing an upcoming SAT or going to be writing one in early next year, March, May, then you may want to join that. And then lastly, I think it's just left for me to give away the book, right? Don, do you?
Hi all. I think that they've experienced load shedding. If you have joined in us before, you'll know that it's a bugbear of the South African office. But I think we're going to end the webinar there. We're going to contact the winner outside of this webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us. Like Rebecca said, if you have any more questions or comments or anything that you want to tell us and anything you want to ask us, please let us know. Reach out to us via email, respond to the email that you received about this webinar and the invite. And we'd love to see you in the office. We'd love to see you meeting with us to give you all of our expertise and help you find your way to, they're back already. Help you find your way to the College of Your Dreams. Rebecca, welcome back. Sorry about load shedding. Do you have a winner?
Is it even a webinar if we're not interrupted by load shedding, right?
Yeah. So, well, that just adds to the drama of who the actual winner is, and the winner is Felicity Nangambi. Felicity Nangambi. So if Felicity, you're still on the call, just drop a message in the chat. Oh yes, I see a hand raised there. Congratulations, Felicity.
Nice. Hi, Felicity. So glad you stayed on, and so glad you get to read all the secrets there as well. For anyone who wants to stand a chance of getting that book, of course, we'll give another one away at our next event as well. So make sure to join that. But that's it from us tonight or today. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Don. And thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you soon.